My granddaughter called at 5:30 in the morning and said, "Grandma, don't wear the red coat today." I asked why, and with a trembling voice she said, "Just promise me you won't wear it. Please." Then the line went dead. I stood frozen, staring at the coat hanging in my closet, a gift from my husband 20 years ago. By 6:45 a.m., when I arrived in town, I was stunned the moment I saw what was happening there. That's when I understood my granddaughter's warning had saved my life. I'm truly grateful that you're here with me right now. Before we continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching from your city, state, or country. I love seeing how far this community reaches, and I read as many comments as I can. Also, please note that this story includes dramatized elements created for entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real individuals, events, or locations is purely coincidental, but the message shared here is intended to offer insight and awareness. The phone rang at 5:30 in the morning, the kind of ring that yanks you out of sleep and dumps ice water down your spine. I fumbled for my cell on the nightstand, squinting at the screen. Sophie. My 16-year-old granddaughter never called this early unless something was wrong. "Grandma." Her voice was tight, breathless. "Don't wear the red coat today." I sat up, the quilt sliding off my shoulders. "Sophie, honey, what are you talking about? Just promise me you won't wear it, please." My chest tightened. "Why, what's going on?" "I can't explain right now, but Grandma, you have to trust me. Don't wear that coat. Don't even leave the house with it." The urgency in her voice made my pulse spike. "Sophie, are you safe? Where are you?" "I'm okay, but Grandma, promise me." The line went dead. I tried calling back, straight to voicemail. I sat there in the dark, Henry's old flannel quilt bunched in my fists, trying to make sense of what just happened. Sophie sounded terrified, and she'd never asked me for anything like this before. I padded down the hallway to my bedroom closet and stared at the red coat hanging inside. Henry gave me that coat 20 years ago for our 25th anniversary. Soft leather, custom-stitched with a tag sewn into the lining that read, "To Catherine, forever yours, H." I'd worn it through Wyoming winter's ranch work trips into town. It was as much a part of me as my boots or my wedding ring. But when I reached for it, now my hand stopped. The hook in the mudroom where I usually kept it had been empty for 2 weeks. I'd figured I'd misplaced it, maybe left it in the truck or at the feed store. I'd been distracted lately. Paperwork for the ranch, a nasty letter from my daughter Lauren's lawyer about asset management, the usual chaos of running 950 acres alone. Now a cold knot formed in my stomach. I went to the den where I kept my safe. I spun the dial my birthday, then Henry's, and pulled the door open. The deed to Morgan Valley Ranch, my will, the title to the land Henry's grandfather homesteaded back in 1947. Everything was there, but something was off. Papers stacked wrong, folders out of order, like someone had gone through them and tried to put everything back. My hands started to shake. I should have stayed home, should have called the sheriff, or at least waited until Sophie's phone came back on. But I'm a rancher. We don't wait, we act. So I grabbed my keys, pulled on my Carhartt, and headed for the truck. The drive into Jackson took 30 minutes. I passed 3 sheriff's vehicles, speeding south, lights flashing but no sirens. My stomach twisted. It was Tuesday, my usual morning for the feed run. Jackson Feed and Supply opened at 7, and I liked to beat the crowd. By the time I reached the turnoff, the sun was just starting to bleed over the Teton Range, painting the snow pink and gold. But the parking lot wasn't empty. It was full of patrol cars. I pulled into the gravel drive and killed the engine. Yellow tape stretched across half the lot. A forensic van idled near the loading dock. And there in the middle of it all, a silver Honda Civic with its driver's door hanging open. A white tarp covered something on the ground beside it. A deputy waved at me, shouting something I couldn't hear. I rolled down the window. "Ma'am, you need to turn around. This area's closed." I didn't move. Couldn't. Because the tarp had shifted in the wind, just for a second. And I saw it. A sleeve, red leather, worn at the cuffs. My coat. My heart stopped. The deputy was walking toward me now, one hand raised, but all I could see was that sleeve and the shape beneath the tarp. Someone small, someone still someone, who was no longer breathing. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. That person under the tarp wearing my coat parked at my usual stop on my usual morning. That was supposed to be me. And Sophie's warning, her terrified, breathless voice at 5:30 in the morning, had saved my life. The man walking toward my truck had silver hair and a face I hadn't seen in 40 years. Kate Morgan. His voice was gravelly worn smooth by decades. It's been a long time. I blinked. The badge clipped to his belt said Major Crimes. His eyes, pale, gray, steady, hadn't changed. Vincent Harper. My throat was dry. You're a detective now. Have been for 30 years. He glanced back at the scene, then at me. I need you to step out, Kate. There's something you need to see. My legs felt like they'd been filled with sand, but I climbed down from the cab. The wind cut across the lot, sharp and bitter. Vincent led me toward the tape. I kept my eyes on his back, on the scuffed heels of his boots, anywhere but the tarp. The woman we found this morning, he said quietly, was wearing a red leather coat, custom made, initials stitched inside HM. I stopped walking. That's my husband's work, I whispered. Henry had it made for me 15 years ago. Vincent nodded. I know. I called your ranch. Your foreman said you hadn't been able to find it for 2 weeks. I thought I'd misplaced it. You didn't. He stopped a few feet from the Honda. The tarp was still in place, but I could see the outline now, small frame, one arm bent at an awkward angle. Her name was Amanda Foster, Vincent said. 27. She worked at the Teton County Records Office. Do you know her? I searched my memory. Amanda Foster. And then it clicked. She came to the ranch 2 weeks ago, I said slowly. She said she needed to verify some property records, standard county business. I signed a few forms. She was polite, professional. Did she take anything with her? Just copies of the deed. She said it was routine. Vincent's jaw tightened. He reached into his coat and pulled out a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a single sheet of paper creased and smudged. We found this in her car. I took the bag, holding it up to the morning light. It was a property transfer form. Morgan Valley Ranch, 950 acres, transferred from Catherine E. Morgan to Lauren M. Chambers. For $1. My signature was at the bottom, or something that looked like my signature. The date was 6 weeks ago. I never signed this. My voice came out flat, mechanical. Lauren and I haven't spoken in 2 years. I wouldn't give her the ranch for $1. I wouldn't give her the ranch at all. Amanda processed property transfers as part of her job, Vincent said. But she never filed this one officially. She kept the original. Why would she do that? I stared at the forged signature. The pen strokes were too close. Whoever did this had practiced, because she knew it was fake, I said. She was trying to protect me. Vincent nodded slowly. That's what we think too. The words settled between us like stones. Amanda had been a whistleblower, and my daughter had found out. There's more, Vincent said. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through a call log. Amanda called your granddaughter Sophie at 4:30 this morning, 30 minutes before Sophie called you. My chest went tight. Sophie said a woman named Amanda warned her about the coat. Amanda knew something was going to happen. She tried to stop it. I looked back at the tarp, at the coat I'd been searching for, at the woman who'd worn it in my place. She saved my life, I whispered. Vincent didn't answer. He didn't need to. I turned to leave, my hands shaking, my mind spinning. But Vincent called after me. Catherine, there's one more thing. I stopped. Your daughter hired a lawyer 3 days ago, Richard Bartholomew. He's the most expensive criminal defense attorney in Wyoming. My stomach dropped. She hired him before this happened. The parking lot seemed to tilt. 3 days ago, before Amanda lost her life, before the coat went missing, before any of this became real. Lauren had been planning this all along. I walked into my daughter's real estate office at 2 o'clock that afternoon. Lauren sat behind a glass desk, hands folded, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my truck. She looked up when I entered, and her smile was the kind you give a stranger. Mom, I wasn't expecting you. I closed the door behind me. We need to talk. Of course. She gestured to the chair across from her. Please, sit. I stayed standing. Did you have anything to do with what happened to Amanda Foster? Her expression didn't change, not a flicker. Of course not. But Amanda was helping me protect you. You've been forgetful lately. Forgetful. Missing appointments. signing papers and not remembering. I was setting up a trust to protect the ranch, for your own good. I pulled the evidence photo from my coat, the forged deed Vincent had let me copy. My signature was faked. Lauren tilted her head, studying me like I was a problem she needed to solve. Are you sure you've been under a lot of stress since Dad passed? It's been 5 years, but grief does strange things to memory. My hands curled into fists. I know my own signature. Before she could answer, the door behind me opened. A man in an expensive suit stepped in. Tall, silver-haired, with the kind of smooth confidence that comes from winning too many cases. Richard Bartholomew. I recognized him from the evening news. Mrs. Morgan. His voice was silk over steel. I'm glad you're here. It saves us a phone call. I turned to face him. I don't have anything to say to you. That's unfortunate. He set a leather briefcase on Lauren's desk and pulled out a document. Because we're filing for emergency conservatorship. There will be a competency hearing this Thursday at 10 a.m. 48 hours from now. If the court determines you lack capacity to manage your affairs, Lauren will be appointed as your conservator. She'll have legal authority over your assets, medical decisions, and living arrangements. The room seemed to narrow. You can't do that. We can. You're 58 years old exhibiting erratic behavior. This morning you accused your own daughter of involvement in a death in front of witnesses. You've misplaced legal documents. You can't account for gaps in your memory. He slid a paper across the desk. Sign this power of attorney now and we'll cancel the hearing. I stared at the document. My ranch, my home, everything Henry and I built. No. Bartholomew's smile was thin. Then we'll see you in court. I turned and walked out, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack a rib. Vincent was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against his patrol car. I figured you might need some help. I sagged against the hood. They're trying to take the ranch. Competency hearing. 48 hours. He nodded slowly. I thought they might pull something like this. Come on, there's someone you need to meet. Sharon Delgado's office was small, tucked above a coffee shop on Cash Street. The walls were covered in framed diplomas and photos of smiling clients, elderly folks, most of them. Sharon herself was in her late 40s with dark hair pulled back in a bun and eyes that missed nothing. She listened to my story without interrupting, then leaned back in her chair. This is textbook elder financial abuse, she said. And they've made 2 mistakes. First, they moved too fast. Second, they underestimated you. Can you stop the hearing? I can do better than that. I can win it. She stood and extended her hand. I'm taking your case pro bono. No one pulls this kind of stunt in my county. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got 48 hours to build a defense, and Bartholomew doesn't lose often. She glanced at Vincent. But neither do I. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, hands shaking as I reviewed the documents Sharon had given me. My phone lit up. Unknown number. You have 48 hours to sign Catherine. After that, you lose everything: the ranch, your freedom, your dignity. Don't test me. L. I stared at the screen, my pulse roaring in my ears. Then I forwarded the message to Vincent and typed back. I'll see you in court. At 11:47 that night, my phone buzzed with a single image, a strawberry. It was an old code between Sophie and me from when she was small and we'd pick berries in the summer. Come alone, safe. I grabbed my keys and headed into the dark. The old hay barn sat at the edge of the north pasture, 1.5 miles from the house. I killed my headlights on the last stretch of gravel road. The temperature had dropped to 15 below. My breath fogged the windshield as I pulled up to the weathered doors. Sophie was waiting inside, huddled in her winter coat, her face pale and streaked with tears. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner. I pulled her into my arms. Tell me now. She took a shaky breath. 3 months ago, I overheard Mom and Derek talking about a Wyoming project. I thought it was just business. But 2 weeks ago, I got suspicious Derek's been acting weird, so I broke into his laptop. Sophie. I know, but I found encrypted files. WY Land Acquisitions 2018 to 2024. Hundreds of documents. I copied them to a USB, but I couldn't open them. My stomach twisted. What else? Yesterday, February 6, 10 p.m., I got an email from an anonymous account. It was Amanda. She pulled out her phone, showing me the message. Your mother is planning to harm your grandmother. I have proof. Meet me at 7 a.m. at the feed store. Tell Catherine don't wear the red jacket. It's our signal. She called me this morning at 4:30. Sophie continued, her voice breaking. She was terrified. She said they knew she had evidence. She told me to warn you about the jacket, then the line went dead. And you came to the feed store. Sophie nodded, wiping her eyes. At 7, but the police were already there, and Amanda was... She was gone. I panicked and ran home. I held her tighter. You did the right thing. There's more. She reached into her backpack and pulled out 2 USB drives. At 2 p.m., I got another email, an automated one Amanda must have set up before. It said if I was reading it, she was already gone. She left evidence in a locker at Jackson Hole Athletic Club. Locker 47, code 0915, Emma's birthday. Emma. Her little sister. She passed away in 2015. Amanda told me once during her visit to the ranch. Sophie handed me the drives. One is Derek's files. The other is Amanda's insurance. Both encrypted. I've been trying to crack them all day, but the security is military grade. I stared at the small black rectangles in my palm. Evidence. Proof of whatever Lauren and Derek had been planning for months, maybe years. Mom told me if I ever betrayed the family, I'd lose my college scholarship, Sophie whispered. And you'd die alone in a state nursing home. I was so scared, Grandma. I cupped her face. You saved my life, sweetheart. You're the bravest person I know. Headlights swept across the barn, 2 vehicles roaring up the dirt road, engines growling. Derek's black SUV and a patrol car. I grabbed Sophie's hand. Run! We bolted into the pine forest behind the barn branches, clawing at our coats. Behind us, a voice crackled over a loudspeaker. Catherine Morgan, stop, you're interfering with an investigation. I recognized that voice. Deputy Nathan Price. Sophie stumbled over a root and I pulled her forward, my lungs burning in the frozen air. The beam of a flashlight cut through the trees, sweeping left and right. Mrs. Morgan, this is your last warning. Nathan wasn't here to protect us. He was here to stop us. I shoved the USB drives deep into my coat pocket and kept running Sophie's hand locked in mine. The corruption ran deeper than I'd thought. The forest was darker than I remembered. Every shadow looked like Derek. Every snap of a branch sounded like Nathan's boots. The wind howled through the pines, bitter and sharp. Sophie's breath came in ragged gasps beside me, but she didn't slow down. We climbed uphill through the dense trees, my lungs burning with each step. I was 58, and it showed. My legs felt heavy, my breath shallow. The snow was deep, pulling at our boots. Behind us, Derek crashed through the underbrush. Catherine, Sophie. It doesn't have to be like this. Just give us what we want and this ends. Nathan's voice followed cold and mechanical. Mrs. Morgan, you're making this worse for everyone. Just hand over the drives and we can all go home. I glanced at Sophie. Her eyes were wide with fear, but her jaw was set. She kept moving forward. Grandma, she whispered, her voice shaking. Hide under that fallen log. I'll lead them away. No, I grabbed her arm tighter. We stay together, no matter what. We reached a frozen creek, its surface slick with black ice. Moonlight glinted off the water beneath. I stepped onto a flat stone, testing my weight. My boot slipped. I went down hard, my ankle twisting beneath me with a sickening crack. Pain shot up my leg, white hot and blinding. I bit down on a cry, tasting blood. Grandma. Sophie crouched beside me, trying to pull me up. I'm okay, keep going. I'm not leaving you. Footsteps crunched closer through the snow. Derek appeared through the trees, his face flushed, his coat torn from branches. He stopped 10 feet away, breathing hard vapor rising from his mouth. Mom's been planning this for 2 years, he said. You were supposed to sign over the ranch quietly, move into assisted living. Amanda ruined everything when she started asking questions. I forced myself to stand, leaning heavily on Sophie. My ankles screamed. Amanda saved my life, and now she's gone. His voice was flat empty. Don't let Sophie end up the same way. Sophie stiffened beside me. You're threatening me. Your own niece. I'm warning you. There's still time to walk away. Nathan emerged from the shadows behind Derek, his weapon drawn and raised, pointed straight at my chest. Last chance, Mrs. Morgan. The USB drives. Now. I stared at him. A deputy sheriff. Someone sworn to protect people like me. Vincent Harper knows I'm here, I said, forcing my voice steady. He already has copies of everything. It was a lie. But Nathan hesitated, his eyes narrowing. His radio crackled. Not the local police frequency, FBI. Sirens split the night. Floodlights swept through the trees like searchlights. A helicopter roared overhead so low the wind from its blades bent the pines and kicked up swirling snow. A voice boomed over a loudspeaker. Nathan Price, Derek Chambers, drop your weapons. This is the FBI, you are surrounded. Nathan's gun clattered to the frozen ground. He raised his hands slowly, his face drained of color. Derek turned and ran his boots slipping on ice. He made it 5 yards before 2 state troopers tackled him hard into the snow. They cuffed him within seconds. Vincent appeared through the trees, his coat dusted with frost, his breath coming in white clouds. He reached me just as my legs gave out. You okay, Kate? I sagged against him, my ankle throbbing with every heartbeat. How did you find us? Sophie activated an emergency signal on her phone before she texted you that strawberry emoji. We've been tracking you since 11:30. I called in the FBI when I saw Nathan's patrol car heading toward your property. I looked at Sophie, who stood a few feet away, wrapped in a thermal blanket an EMT had draped over her shoulders. She gave me a small, exhausted smile. A woman in an FBI jacket approached. Late 40s, sharp eyes calm under pressure. Mrs. Morgan, Agent Denise Caldwell, you're safe now. I nodded, too drained to speak. As the paramedics wrapped my ankle in a stabilizing brace, Vincent crouched beside me. Catherine Sophie told me about the USB drives. We need to decrypt them tonight. Amanda's email said the password is something only you would know, a memory the two of you shared. I closed my eyes, thinking back to Amanda's visit to the ranch 2 weeks ago. Her nervous smile. The way she'd lingered by the kitchen window asking about the strawberry plants Henry and I used to grow. A memory. What had we talked about? At 10 o'clock that morning, I sat in Vincent's office at the Teton County Sheriff's Department, my injured ankle propped on a chair, staring at the 2 USB drives that held the key to everything. Sophie appeared on Vincent's laptop screen via video call, dark circles under her eyes. She was at a safe house 20 miles away. Vincent stood beside me, and Agent Caldwell leaned against the desk. We worked through the night, Vincent said. Sophie and the FBI tech team cracked Derek's files around 7:30. Catherine, you need to see this. He opened the first USB. The password was Derek Chambers wins 2024. Sophie said, her voice exhausted. I guessed it. Derek's ego is predictable. The screen filled with a spreadsheet. 11 properties. Dates from 2018 to 2024. Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. Total value $52.3 million. I felt the air leave my lungs. 11 victims, Caldwell said. All between 58 and 78 years old. Rural landowners. 4 passed away in accidents, barn fires, falls. 7 were declared incompetent and moved into facilities. I scanned the names. Dorothy Callahan, Montana, lost her life in a barn fire in 2021. Eugene Frost, Idaho, placed in a nursing home in 2022. Passed away last year, still believing he'd lost his mind. My hands started shaking. The method was consistent, Caldwell continued. Lauren identified targets, isolated elderly landowners with valuable property. Derek befriended them. Amanda forged the documents. Deputy Nathan Price and other officials covered it up. Properties were transferred for $1, then resold to Peter Hargrove in Cheyenne at 60% of market value. Hargrove launders the money, I asked. Correct. $18.7 million in profits divided among the conspirators. We've been investigating Hargrove for 6 months. This is the evidence we needed. Vincent pointed to another file. Bank accounts, transfer dates, a complete ledger. This is a federal RICO case, Caldwell said. Organized fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse. I looked at the second USB drive. Amanda's insurance. We still need to decrypt this one, Vincent said. Amanda's email said the password is something only you would know, a shared memory. I closed my eyes, thinking back to Amanda's visit. She'd admired my wedding photo, me and Henry, 1985, holding strawberries. We'd married at a strawberry festival. Try strawberries for love 1985, I said. Vincent typed. The screen flashed red, access denied. Sophie leaned closer. Wait, Amanda posted about her sister Emma every year. Emma's birthday was the locker code September 15th. My chest tightened. Try Emma Rose Foster 0915, Vincent typed. The screen turned green. The files loaded. 12 video clips, 8 audio recordings, a ledger, scanned documents, and a handwritten letter. Vincent clicked the first video. Lauren's voice filled the room. Amanda's becoming a liability. We need to handle this situation before she ruins everything, Derek responded. How do you want to handle it? Whatever it takes. The video cut off. I felt sick. Caldwell scrolled through the files. These videos show Lauren, Derek, Nathan, and Bartholomew discussing the conspiracy. The audio recordings are calls between Lauren and Hargrove about reselling properties and laundering money. The ledger matches Derek's dates, amounts, accounts. She opened the scanned documents. Forged deeds. The Photoshop layers are still visible. Forensic evidence. Then she clicked the PDF. Amanda's handwriting filled the screen. I was coerced into participating in this fraud by Lauren and Derek Chambers. They threatened my mother. I created this evidence to protect the victims. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. Please bring them to justice. Amanda Foster. The room went silent. Caldwell uploaded the files to the FBI server and stood. Catherine, this is enough for federal charges: fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse, organized extortion. We're issuing arrest warrants for Lauren Chambers, Derek Chambers, Peter Hargrove, and Richard Bartholomew now. Vincent picked up his radio. I'll coordinate with patrol units. We'll have them by tonight. But as I watched them work, cold fear settled over me. Amanda's last words to Sophie echoed, they're going to harm her. We had evidence of fraud. But where was the evidence of what happened to Amanda? 48 hours after my daughter tried to have me declared incompetent, I walked into the Teton County Courthouse with my head held high. Sharon Delgado walked beside me, briefcase in hand, ready for battle. But as it turned out, the battle had already been decided. The previous afternoon, police had gone to arrest Lauren and Richard Bartholomew. Both houses were empty. Neighbors reported seeing Lauren loading her SUV at 2 in the morning. Bartholomew's office was cleared out. They'd run. I'd spent the night at the ranch under protection, unable to sleep, every sound making me jump. At 6 that morning, Sharon called. The hearing is still scheduled for 10. The judge hasn't received our motion to dismiss. Be there at 8. At 8 o'clock, I sat in a conference room with Sharon and Vincent. Sharon filed an emergency motion to dismiss the competency hearing and submitted criminal charges for elder abuse against Lauren. At 9:30, we were called into Judge Helena Ortiz's chambers. Judge Ortiz was in her early 60s, silver-haired, with eyes that missed nothing. She gestured to the chairs across from her desk. Mrs. Morgan, Miss Delgado, Detective Harper, I've reviewed your motion and the accompanying evidence. She looked at me. I've also been briefed by the FBI on the ongoing investigation into your daughter. Sharon opened her briefcase and pulled out a tablet. Your Honor, we have video evidence from Amanda Foster's files showing Lauren Chambers and others discussing elder fraud and conspiracy. We also have forensic analysis of the forged property transfer and Amanda Foster's written confession. Judge Ortiz took the tablet and watched the first video clip. Lauren's voice filled the quiet chamber. Amanda's becoming a liability. We need to handle this situation before she ruins everything. The judge's jaw tightened. She watched 2 more clips, then set the tablet down. Where is Mr. Bartholomew? An arrest warrant was issued yesterday, Vincent said. He failed to appear this morning. And your daughter, the judge asked me. Gone, I said quietly. She left sometime early this morning. Judge Ortiz leaned back in her chair, her expression hard. This is elder abuse document fraud and possible conspiracy related to what happened to Miss Foster. Mrs. Morgan, I sincerely apologize that you were subjected to this petition. She picked up her gavel. The competency hearing is dismissed, fully and permanently. Furthermore, I'm issuing a bench warrant for Lauren Chambers with no bail. If she's found, she will be taken into custody immediately. Relief flooded through me so strong my hands started shaking. "Thank you, Your Honor," Sharon said. Judge Ortiz looked at me. "You're a brave woman, Mrs. Morgan. I hope they find your daughter soon." At 10:15, as we left the courtroom, Vincent's phone rang. He answered and his face went pale. He turned to me. "Lauren and Bartholomew patrol units went to their homes this morning. Both gone. Lauren's neighbor saw her packing her SUV at 2 a.m. Last confirmed sighting was at a gas station near Alpine on Highway 26, heading toward Idaho. Multi-state manhunt is active." My stomach dropped. How long ago? 4 hours. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Sharon stepped to the microphones. "Catherine Morgan has been fully vindicated. The real criminals are Lauren Chambers and her associates, who are now fugitives from justice." Camera flashes went off like fireworks. Questions were shouted. Vincent kept his hand on my shoulder, guiding me through the crowd. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. "You think you've won? I'm just getting started." "I'll see." I showed Vincent. His jaw clenched and he swore under his breath. "Get in the car, now." I wasn't going to sit still. Not now. Not when we'd come this close. Vincent tried to stop me. "Catherine, you should stay at the ranch with protection." But I was already standing beside his patrol car, hand gripping the door handle. "She's my daughter," I said. "I've run from her long enough. I need to see this through to the end." He stared at me for a long moment, then unlocked the door. "Get in, but you follow my orders." I nodded and climbed into the passenger seat. As we roared onto Highway 191, sirens splitting the cold morning air, I watched the Teton Range fall away behind us and thought, this is it. The end of the road, one way or another. The manhunt was coordinated across multiple agencies: Teton County Sheriff, Wyoming State Patrol, FBI, and Idaho State Police. Vincent's dashboard radio crackled constantly with updates, voices clipped and urgent. At 10:45, traffic cameras spotted Lauren's black Audi near Alpine, Wyoming, heading west on Highway 26 toward the Idaho border. She was driving fast, 90 miles per hour in a 65 zone. I sat silent, my hands clenched in my lap, my injured ankle throbbing with every bump in the road. At 11:15, State Patrol set up a roadblock at Palisades Reservoir. Lauren blew through it without slowing tires, screeching as she veered onto Forest Road, 087, a remote dirt road, unpaved and winding through dense pines and steep cliffs. "She knows these back roads," Vincent muttered, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. At 11:30, the FBI helicopter with Agent Caldwell aboard picked up her vehicle on thermal imaging. It was heading toward an abandoned property, Silver Creek Dude Ranch, 12 miles south of Alpine near the Snake River. Vincent glanced at me. "Silver Creek belonged to Margaret Klein, victim number 4 on your daughter's list. Lauren took it in 2020 through the same fraud scheme. Ironic that she'd hide there." My stomach twisted. Margaret. I'd met her once at a Ranchers Association meeting 15 years ago. A kind woman with a gentle smile and a love for her land. She died in a barn fire 2 years later. Now I knew it wasn't an accident. By noon, a tactical perimeter was in place. SWAT teams in black gear, FBI agents with rifles, state police blocking every road. Caldwell was directing operations from the helicopter circling overhead. At 12:15, a negotiator tried to make contact over a loudspeaker, his voice echoing across the snowy field. "Lauren Chambers, Derek Chambers, you are surrounded. Come out with your hands up." No response from inside the weathered log cabin. At 12:30, smoke rose from the stone chimney. They were inside, and they knew we were here. At 12:45, Derek's voice shouted from a second-floor window. "We're not going to prison. Pull back in 10 minutes, or we burn this place down with us inside." Vincent swore under his breath. "He's bluffing." But I wasn't so sure I'd seen what they were capable of. I studied the topographic map Vincent had spread across the hood of his patrol car. I'd been to Silver Creek once years ago for that ranchers meeting. Margaret had given us a tour. I remembered the layout, the main lodge, the guest cabins, and the old root cellar. "There's a root cellar," I said, tracing the map with my finger. "Margaret built it in 1947 as a storm shelter during tornado season. The exit is hidden in the willow thicket behind the house about 50 yards out. If they're planning to run, they'll go that way." Vincent grabbed his radio. "All units cover the rear perimeter, root cellar, exit Willow Grove. Repeat Willow Grove behind main structure." At 1 o'clock, 2 figures emerged from the willow thicket behind the house. Lauren and Derek running low and fast toward the frozen river. 4 state troopers blocked their path, weapons drawn. Derek lunged at one of them, fists swinging. He was tackled hard into the snow and cuffed within seconds, his face pressed into the ice. Lauren stopped. Slowly, she raised her hands and turned around. Across 50 yards of white snow, her eyes found mine. She didn't look afraid. She didn't look defeated. She looked triumphant, like she'd won something I hadn't realized was at stake, and that scared me more than anything else. If you're still here, comment 8 below so I know you're still with me. And if you were in my place, seeing your own daughter in handcuffs yet smiling like she still had the upper hand, what would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments, because what I discovered inside that cabin was the real turning point. And before we continue, please note the next part includes dramatized elements for storytelling and educational purposes. If this style isn't for you, you're welcome to stop here. Inside the log cabin at Silver Creek, FBI agents found something that made my blood run cold, a wall covered with the details of our lives. Lauren and Derek were locked in separate patrol cars outside. Agent Caldwell led me inside, Vincent close behind. The main room looked ordinary at first, wooden furniture, a stone fireplace, dusty shelves. But the far wall told a different story. Surveillance photos, dozens of them pinned like specimens. Photos of me at the grocery store, at the doctor's office, my truck's license plate circled in red. Photos of Sophie, her class schedule images taken inside her dorm room through the window, her jogging route, the coffee shop she visited every Tuesday, Vincent's home address, Sharon's office and car. Someone had been watching us for months. A detailed map of Morgan Valley Ranch covered half the wall, propane tank, locations, electrical panels, weak points marked with red X's. On the desk sat a calendar with red marks and handwritten notes. February 9th, sees accident brake lines. 2 days ago, yesterday. February 12th, guardianship transfer. Today, day 3. February 14th, flight SJO, 7:45 p.m., San Jose, Costa Rica. 3 plans were labeled A, B, and C. Plan A, legal competency hearing, to conservatorship to control all assets. Plan B, elimination. If legal, fail-stage accident, for Catherine brake failure, then Sophie becomes orphaned minor to Lauren appointed guardian, plus inherits estate. Plan C, escape. If both fail, flee to Costa Rica, no extradition treaty for fraud at that time. Derek's laptop sat open on the table, an email draft to Peter Hargrove. After we take care of Catherine and the kid, we'll move the Wyoming properties first. Montana can wait. Transfer $4.2 million to the San Jose account by Friday, sus.d. Caldwell clicked on another folder. Our tech team recovered deleted emails. One appeared on the screen, Derek to Lauren 3 days before Amanda lost her life. A is panicking, wants out. I'll handle her permanently. Make sure you have an alibi. D, Lauren's reply. Do it, but make it look accidental, and use the red jacket Catherine's. That way, if things go sideways, the cops will suspect her. My legs went weak. Vincent caught my arm. They framed you from the start, he said quietly. Caldwell opened another file. Fake passports, Lauren and Derek under the names Linda and David Carter. Bank statements showing $4.2 million in Banco Nacional de Costa Rica. Vincent pulled out his phone and accessed my truck's OnStar system remotely. His face darkened. Catherine, your brake lines were partially cut. They would have failed completely within the next 24 hours. You were supposed to lose your life tomorrow on the road into town. The room spun. Plan B was already in motion, Caldwell said, even while they pursued the legal route. I walked to the desk and saw a handwritten journal, Lauren's diary. One entry dated 6 months ago. Mom always chose the ranch over me. Chose it over Dad when he was dying. She worked 16-hour days and missed my high school graduation because a fence needed fixing. The ranch mattered more than I did. Now the ranch belongs to me. That's only fair. L. My hands shook as I read. Decades of resentment distilled into a few bitter lines. I'd missed her graduation. I remembered that day a water main had burst, flooding the south pasture. Henry had been in the hospital. I'd thought Lauren understood, but she hadn't. and that wound had never healed. As we stepped outside into the cold afternoon, I saw Lauren sitting in the patrol car, hands cuffed behind her back. She stared straight ahead, her face blank. I walked to the window. She slowly turned her head, and for a moment, just a flicker, I saw my little girl, the child who used to help me pick strawberries. Then the image vanished. She mouthed 2 words, "I'm sorry," but her eyes were empty. And I realized my daughter had really died years ago. I just hadn't known it until now. 3 weeks after my daughter's arrest, I stood in Sharon Delgado's office in downtown Jackson, surrounded by evidence boxes and more than 50 letters from strangers, all saying the same thing: "Thank you for fighting." The media explosion had been overwhelming. The Jackson Hole News and Guide ran the headline, "Local Woman Exposes $52 million Elder Fraud Ring, 11 Victims Across 3 States." NPR picked it up, then NBC Nightly News, then CNN. On social platforms, the hashtag Red Jacket Justice trended nationally. The red leather jacket had become a symbol armor for the vulnerable, a rallying cry for elder protection. I hadn't asked for any of it, but it was happening anyway. The community response was immediate. At the Ranchers Association Hall, over 200 people attended my talk on warning signs, sudden legal documents pressure to sign quickly, isolation from family and friends. First Interstate Bank in Jackson started offering free legal document reviews for anyone over 60. Wyoming State Senator Thomas Grayson introduced Catherine's Law SB 247. It required all property transfers involving people over 60 to have 2 independent witnesses, plus notarization mandatory fraud detection training for county clerks, and the creation of a state elder fraud task force. "This will save lives," Grayson told me during a call. "Your courage made this possible." I didn't feel courageous. I felt exhausted. The victim families began reaching out. Patricia Morrison, Amanda's mother, 55, with the same gentle eyes her daughter had came to the ranch. We held each other and cried. "You made what happened to my daughter mean something," she whispered. "She wanted to do the right thing. Because of you, she did." Luke Frost, Eugene's grandson, 30, a software engineer from Boise, joined the civil lawsuit. 11 families were suing for $52.3 million in restitution, plus punitive damages. I was the lead plaintiff. Letters arrived daily, phone calls, support groups started forming, people who'd lost parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles to similar schemes. We weren't alone anymore. Sharon and I spent hours preparing for trial. We reviewed testimony, practiced staying calm under cross-examination, watched videos of the evidence over and over until I could recite the timeline in my sleep. Vincent was preparing to testify about the chain of evidence and the investigation. FBI victim support specialists gave me counseling. I still had nightmares. I still jumped at sudden sounds. PTSD, they called it. But I was getting through it. Sophie returned to the University of Wyoming for spring semester. She was in therapy twice a week. She'd changed her major from engineering to criminal justice. "I want to protect people, Grandma. People like you." We had joint therapy sessions over video calls. She apologized for not acting sooner. I told her the truth. "You saved my life, sweetheart. You're the bravest person I've ever known. Don't ever doubt that." Lauren was being held in federal detention in Denver. She'd sent me a letter. It sat on my kitchen table, unopened. I wasn't ready. On March 10th, Sharon called. "The trial date is set, April 15th. U.S. Attorney Marcus Reyes is personally prosecuting. He's seeking life without parole on the most serious charges plus consecutive sentences on the rest." I hung up and walked outside. The snow was melting. Spring was coming. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something I'd almost forgotten: hope. That night, a package arrived, no return address. Inside was a Polaroid photo, Amanda Foster alive, smiling, standing beside a little girl in a hospital bed, her sister Emma. On the back in blue ink, Amanda had written, "To Catherine, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Please tell my mom I love her and I tried to do the right thing. The world needs more people like you. I held the photo to my chest and wept. April 15th, 2024. I sat on the witness stand at Teton County Courthouse, my right hand resting on an old leather Bible, staring across the courtroom at my daughter. She wore a cream-colored suit and a carefully rehearsed expression of sorrow, but I knew better. I'd raised her. And the woman at that defense table wasn't the daughter I remembered. The courtroom was packed national media sketch artists, victim families including Patricia Morrison and Luke Frost, over 100 spectators. Judge Helena Ortiz presided calm and commanding. The defendants sat at separate tables: Lauren Chambers, Derek Chambers, and Nathan Price. Richard Bartholomew had pleaded guilty and would testify for the prosecution under a deal: 5 years probation disbarment, $500,000 fine. U.S. Attorney Marcus Reyes delivered his opening statement. Your Honor, this is about greed, betrayal, and what happened to Amanda Foster. For 6 years, the defendants orchestrated fraud targeting 11 families, stealing $52.3 million. When Amanda Foster tried to stop them, they took her life. When Catherine Morgan refused to surrender, they tried to take hers. Justice demands truth. Lauren's attorney, Sarah Hernandez, countered weakly. Lauren Chambers made mistakes under her husband's manipulation. This is misunderstanding, not malice. Derek's attorney claimed he was a pawn controlled by Lauren and Peter Hargrove. Vincent Harper testified, first walking the jury through the timeline, the 5 a.m. warning, discovering Amanda's body, the USB drives the arrests. Professional and credible. FBI agent Caldwell explained the scope: 11 victims. 3 states, $52.3 million stolen, laundered through Hargrove's company. Forensic accounting traced every dollar. Medical examiner Dr. Lisa Brennan testified Amanda sustained fatal injuries from behind, consistent with a tire iron found in Derek's SUV. The body was staged in the red jacket after Amanda had already passed. On day 2, I was called to the stand. Sharon had coached me. Tell your story, speak from the heart. Under direct examination by Reyes, I recounted everything. Sophie's 5 a.m. call, the missing jacket, Amanda's body, the forged deed, Sophie's midnight confession, the forest chase, the cut brake lines, the surveillance wall at Silver Creek. I stayed controlled. The jury leaned forward. Some wiped tears. Reyes played 2 video clips from Amanda's USB. Lauren's voice recorded at her office. Amanda's becoming a liability. We need to handle this before she ruins everything. Derek on speakerphone with Hargrove. Once we move Wyoming properties, we'll have 18 million clean. Then Montana. Whispers rippled through the room. The jury sat straighter. Lauren's face remained blank. Cross-examination began. Hernandez approached. Mrs. Morgan, you and your daughter had a strained relationship for years, correct? Yes, I regret that. Could that strain have caused you to misinterpret her intentions? I held her gaze. Forging my signature isn't help. Cutting my brake lines isn't help. What happened to Amanda isn't help. Those are crimes. You're 58, recently widowed. Could grief have affected your perception? Sharon objected, badgering the witness. Sustained, Judge Ortiz said. Hernandez tried once more. Could this be a tragic misunderstanding? I looked at Lauren. I wish it were, but evidence doesn't lie, and neither do I. My credibility held. After 3 hours, I stepped down. My legs trembled, but I kept my head high. Sharon squeezed my hand. Lauren stared at the table, expressionless. Judge Ortiz called recess. As we left, a reporter shouted, Mrs. Morgan, how do you feel? I stopped and looked back at Lauren, at the jury, at the evidence stacked on tables. Ask me after the verdict, I said quietly. But inside, something was breaking. Not my will, my heart. Because that woman in the cream suit wasn't my daughter anymore. And I had to accept that truth. On day 3 of the trial, Derek Chambers took the stand. I'd known him for 15 years, watched him marry my daughter, held my granddaughter when he and Lauren brought her home from the hospital. Now I watched him destroy himself in less than an hour. His attorney, Paul Martinez, asked softball questions. Derek tried to paint himself as a victim. I was afraid of Lauren, he said. She planned everything. I just followed orders. She threatened to take Sophie away if I didn't cooperate. He described Lauren as manipulative, controlling, a puppet master. Then Marcus Reyes stood for cross-examination. Mr. Chambers, whose handwriting is on the threatening note sent to Sophie Morgan, Derek shifted in his seat. Mine, but Lauren told me to whose vehicle was used to transport Amanda Foster's body. Mine, but I didn't. Who struck Amanda Foster with the tire iron, yes or no? Derek went silent, sweat beaded on his forehead. The courtroom held its breath. I don't have to answer that. Reyes nodded slowly. You just did. No further questions. The jury's disgust was visible. Derek's testimony had backfired spectacularly. The defense rested without calling Lauren. Her attorney had advised her she'd be destroyed under cross-examination. Lauren agreed to remain silent. On day 4, victim impact statements began. Patricia Morrison, Amanda's mother, wept openly at the podium. My daughter was 27 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. She passed away because she tried to do the right thing. I'll never hold her children. I'll never see her wedding. Please give my daughter justice. Luke Frost, Eugene's grandson, spoke with controlled anger. My grandfather died in a state nursing home believing he'd lost his mind. But he hadn't. These people stole his ranch, his dignity, and his will to live. He spent his final months alone and terrified. They did that. Make them pay. Judge Ortiz looked at me. Mrs. Morgan, would you like to speak? I stood and faced Lauren directly. Lauren, you're my daughter. I carried you for 9 months. I loved you from your first breath. But love doesn't mean I'll excuse what you've done. You tried to harm me. You threatened your own daughter, my granddaughter. You took the life of an innocent young woman who had everything ahead of her. I forgive you not because you deserve it, but because I need peace to sleep at night. But I will never, ever forget. Lauren's mask finally cracked. A single tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. Closing arguments were brief. Reyes kept it simple. The evidence is overwhelming. 2 USB drives, videos, audio recordings, forensics, 64 witnesses. They're guilty. Do your duty. The defense offered weak counters about reasonable doubt and coercion. No one was convinced. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. At 4:30 that afternoon, they returned. Judge Ortiz spoke. Has the jury reached a verdict? The forewoman, a middle-aged rancher with steady eyes, stood. We have your honor. Lauren Chambers guilty. First-degree charges related to what happened to Amanda Foster. Conspiracy to harm Catherine Morgan. Organized racketeering. Elder abuse on 11 counts. Fraud and forgery. Derek Chambers guilty on all counts. Nathan Price guilty on conspiracy, accessory, and bribery charges. The courtroom erupted. Quiet applause from victim families. Reporters scrambling for their phones. Judge Ortiz banged her gavel. Order sentencing will be held May 30th. Defendants remanded without bail. As deputies led Lauren away in chains, she turned back one last time. Our eyes met across the courtroom. She mouthed 2 words, I'm sorry. And for one brief moment, my heart cracked open. Not with forgiveness, not yet, but with something else. Grief. Grief for the daughter I'd lost. For the little girl who used to hold my hand. For all the years we'd never get back. I nodded once, then turned away. Sophie took my hand as we stepped outside into the April sunshine. It's over, Grandma, she whispered. I squeezed her hand tight. No, sweetheart, it's just beginning. 6 weeks after the verdict, I returned to the courtroom one last time, not as a victim, but as a survivor. And I wasn't alone. 10 other families filled the rows behind me, united in shared grief, and the justice we'd fought so hard to win. May 30th, 2024, 10 o'clock. Sentencing day. The courtroom was quieter than during trial media. Interest had faded, but every victim family was present. A fierce solidarity filled the air. Judge Helena Ortiz addressed the court with a steady voice. In 30 years on this bench, this is among the most calculated and heartless conspiracies I've encountered. The defendants showed no mercy to their victims. This court will show none to them. She began reading the sentences. Lauren Chambers' life imprisonment without possibility of parole for federal charges related to what happened to Amanda Foster, mandatory under law. Additional consecutive sentences, 40 years for conspiracy to harm Catherine Morgan, 20 years for racketeering. Total life, plus 60 years. Derek Chambers, 40 years in federal prison for his role as accomplice conspiracy fraud and elder abuse. Parole eligible after 30 years when he'd be 70. Nathan Price, 15 years for bribery, obstruction of justice, and accessory charges. Parole eligible after 12 years. Peter Hargrove, the Cheyenne developer, tried separately last month, 25 years for money laundering and conspiracy. County clerks who assisted in Montana and Idaho, 8 years each for fraud and conspiracy. Richard Bartholomew, who took a plea deal, 5 years probation, permanent disbarment, $500,000 fine. His testimony had been crucial despite the controversial leniency. Then Judge Ortiz addressed restitution. The court orders restitution of $52.3 million to victims, and heirs paid from seized assets properties, bank accounts, frozen chambers funds, and Hargrove holdings. All fraudulently transferred properties are returned to rightful owners or heirs. Judge Ortiz looked at me, her expression softening. Mrs. Morgan, your courage protected countless others. Amanda Foster's sacrifice was not in vain. Lauren was given a chance to speak. She stood, her voice flat and empty. I have nothing to say. She sat. Derek declined to speak. Judge Ortiz turned to me. Mrs. Morgan, would you like to address the court? I stood steadier than I'd been in months. Your Honor, I stand here for everyone told they're too old, too confused, or too weak to fight back. We're not. To the families here, we survived and we will rebuild. To law enforcement and the FB, I thank you for believing us when it mattered. To anyone afraid to speak up about elder abuse document, everything trust your instincts, ask for help. Justice may come slowly, but it's real. And to Amanda Foster, my voice broke. I steadied myself. You saved us all. Rest in peace. Patricia Morrison. Amanda's mother stood and began clapping. The entire gallery rose in a standing ovation, rare in a courtroom, but Judge Ortiz allowed it. I wept. The hearing ended at 11:30. As we stepped outside, reporters shouted questions, but I waved them off. Sophie walked beside me. Patricia took my other arm. Behind us came 10 victim families, strangers, 6 months ago now family. We stood on the courthouse steps under Wyoming sunshine. Someone began singing Amazing Grace. Others joined in. I closed my eyes and for the first time in a year felt something close to peace. As we drove back to the ranch, Sophie asked, Grandma, what are you going to do now? I looked at the Teton Peaks rising in the distance, Henry's favorite view, and smiled. Live, sweetheart, and make sure no one else has to fight this battle alone. 6 months after Lauren's sentencing, the first snow of the season dusted the Tetons. November 2024. I stood in the barn at Morgan Valley Ranch, pitchfork in hand, mucking out stalls. My therapist called this grounding work. I called it remembering who I was. The ranch was thriving. Over 200 head of healthy cattle. I'd hired 2 ranch hands, a young couple, hardworking and kind. The finances were stable. The restitution payment, $4.8 million after legal fees, had covered repairs improvements and a scholarship fund in Amanda's name. My mornings had found a rhythm again. Farm work at dawn, coffee on the porch, watching sunrise, journaling as Dr. Ellen Crawford advised to process the trauma. My ankle had healed completely. The nightmares came less often now, once a week instead of every night. Sophie was thriving too. Sophomore at the University of Wyoming, majoring in criminal justice with a 3.8 GPA. She volunteered at the Campus Victim Support Center 10 hours a week. Still in therapy, but down to every other week. We video called twice weekly, closer than we'd ever been. She'd mentioned she was seeing someone. A healthy sign of moving forward. Thanksgiving at the ranch was full. Sophie came home for the holiday. Vincent Harper visited often, now weekly, helping with chores, a quiet companionship that felt like something more. Sharon Delgado had become a dear friend. Patricia Morrison, Amanda's mother, felt like family. Luke Frost, Eugene's grandson, stopped by regularly. Ruth Sullivan, my neighbor, brought homemade rolls. We gathered around the table, turkey stuffing pies filled with laughter and stories. Sophie raised her glass. To Grandma, the strongest woman in Wyoming with the kindest heart I know. Vincent caught my eye. To second chances. I smiled. To family, the ones we're born with and the ones we choose. That afternoon, I visited Henry's grave in the small family cemetery on the property. I laid a winter wreath. We did it, Henry. The ranch is safe. Sophie's doing so well. I wish you could see her. She's so much like you. Strong, brave, kind. I miss you every day, but I'm learning to live again. I think you'd be proud. Therapy was helping. Dr. Crawford and I worked through Lauren's betrayal. I couldn't have known. I was a good mother. She made her own choices. I have to let go of the guilt. The PTSD symptoms were fading. I was sleeping better, functioning better. Lauren had sent 3 letters from federal prison in Colorado. I'd opened the most recent one from last week. Mom, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I fed my resentment for too long toward you, toward Dad, for dying, toward the ranch, for taking you from me, toward myself, for never feeling enough. I let that anger turn me into a monster. Sophie deserved better than me. You deserved better. I'm sorry for what happened to Amanda. I'm sorry for trying to harm you. I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it. You don't need to write back. I just wanted you to know. Lauren. I'd wept, folded the letter, and placed it in Henry's photo album. I hadn't written back. Maybe someday, but not today. After dinner, Vincent helped me wash dishes, while Sophie and Sharon laughed in the living room. A comfortable silence settled between us. You've come a long way, Kate, Vincent said quietly. I couldn't have done it without you. He smiled. I'm glad I was here. Our hands brushed in the soapy water. We both smiled. Nothing more needed saying. Later, Sophie caught me alone and winked. So, Vincent's here a lot lately. I laughed. He's a good friend. Just friends. I blushed. Maybe. We'll see. It's nice. That night, locking the front door, I found a package on the porch. Brown paper, no return address, no postage, hand-delivered. Inside was a red leather jacket, brand new, beautifully handcrafted, exactly like mine had been. A typed note on cream paper, wear it with pride, you've earned it. With gratitude from the victim families. I ran my fingers over the soft leather, then draped it over my shoulders and stepped outside. The stars blazed over the Tetons, millions of them, like Henry used to say, each one a dream. I looked up and whispered, thank you. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you to the families. Thank you to everyone who stood beside me. The cold air filled my lungs and I smiled. I'm still here, and I'm not done yet. In December, I stood at a podium in the Wyoming State Capitol facing legislators, advocates, and reporters. Sharon Delgado stood beside me. Catherine Morgan refused to become a victim, she said into the microphone. Because of her courage, thousands of elders will be protected. The room erupted in applause. I took a deep breath and began. On December 10, 2024, Governor Melissa Grant signed Catherine's Law SB 247 into effect. Key provisions. Property transfers involving people over 60 require 2 independent witnesses plus notarization. County clerks must complete annual fraud detection training. The Wyoming Elder Fraud Task Force is established with 9 members. Vincent Harper was appointed as law enforcement representative. I'd been nominated for citizen representative but declined, suggesting Patricia Morrison instead. She accepted. A $5 million victim compensation fund was allocated. Banks must flag suspicious elder transactions. The vote was unanimous, 30-0, Senate 60-0, House. Governor Grant handed me the commemorative pen. This is your law. You've made Wyoming safer. My speech was brief. This law belongs to Amanda Foster, who gave her life for truth. It belongs to 11 families who lost everything. It belongs to every elder who's been dismissed. You matter. Thank you. The media attention grew. I spoke at the National AARP conference in October keynote to 1,200 people. CBS's 60 Minutes aired a segment in November with Leslie Stahl. 8 million viewers. I was nominated for Wyoming Women's Hall of Fame. Montana and Idaho invited me to testify on similar bills in January. The Red Jacket Coalition launched in August. Headquarters at Morgan Valley Ranch, the old barn converted into office space. Staff Sharon as executive director volunteer. Emily Hartman as legal advocate, $55,000 salary. Luke Frost as community coordinator, $48,000. Sophie as youth coordinator, part-time. 15 volunteers. Services free legal consultations. Educational workshops. 12 sessions, 200 attendees. Hotline 1-800-RED-COAT Monday through Friday, averaging 40 calls weekly. Funding $120,000 in donations first year. Wyoming Community Foundation granted $50,000. I contributed $100,000. Impact in 6 months. 78 families helped. 12 frauds prevented. The Amanda Foster Memorial Scholarship launched June 15th. Fund $250,000. Award $10,000 annually for women in Wyoming, Montana, or Idaho studying justice fields. First recipient, Jessica Reynolds, 18, criminal justice major. Her grandmother had been defrauded in 2020. At the memorial ceremony, Patricia Morrison unveiled a bronze plaque, Amanda Foster, 1997 to 2024, in memory of a whistleblower who chose courage over silence. I spoke. Amanda was 27. She chose right though she knew she might lose everything. Because of that courage, 11 families got justice. Her legacy lives on. Ripple effects spread nationwide. Montana introduced the Elder Protection Act in February. Idaho introduced the Elder Property Rights Bill in March. FBI reported 23 additional arrests connected to Hargrove's network across California, Arizona, and Texas. 41 properties worth $68 million returned to rightful owners. National coverage, USA Today, The Atlantic People magazine. On December 22nd, closing the coalition office for Christmas, my phone buzzed. An email from a stranger. Subject, "You're not the only one." Mrs. Morgan, my name is Rachel Bennett. My grandmother is 68 lives outside Billings, Montana. Someone forged her signature on a transfer deed last month. She's terrified. Police won't help. I found your story online. Can you help us, please? Rachel. I stared at the screen. Then I sat down, turned the lights back on, and typed, "Rachel, yes, I can help. Your grandmother isn't alone anymore. Call me tomorrow morning. We'll figure it out together. Catherine Morgan." I hit send, then called Vincent. "I need contacts in Montana." He chuckled. "When have I ever said no?" Driving home through gentle snow, I realized this is my life now, not just surviving, fighting for others. And I've never felt more alive. February 2025, exactly 1 year since Sophie's 5 a.m. call saved my life. I stood in the same spot, the kitchen of Morgan Valley Ranch, coffee mug in hand, watching the sun rise red over the Tetons. 1 year. 365 days since my daughter tried to have me declared incompetent. Since Amanda Foster lost her life wearing my red leather jacket. Since I discovered that the woman I raised had become someone I no longer recognized. I sipped my coffee black, no sugar, the way Henry used to make it, and let the silence settle around me. The farmhouse was warm, the animals were fed, the fences were mended, and I was still here. At 6:30, I walked out to the livestock pens. The temperature hovered at -5, snow crunching under my boots. 4 generations of Morgans had worked this land. My great-grandfather built the original barn in 1903. My father expanded the herd in the 50s. Henry and I raised Sophie's mother here. And now, despite everything Lauren had tried to take, the ranch endured. Beyond the north pasture lay the strawberry field buried under 2 feet of snow now. But come March, Sophie and I would plant new seedlings, red berries for Henry, for Amanda, for the 11 families who had lost so much. I wore the red leather jacket every morning. Not Henry's original, that one had been kept as evidence, but the gift from the victim families. It had become my armor, my reminder, a symbol that what Amanda had tried to protect still mattered. Inside the jacket pocket, I carried Lauren's latest letter, postmarked January 15th, from the federal prison in Colorado. I had read it twice. She wrote about regret, about the pressure Derek had put on her, about how she wished she could undo it all. I had not replied. I did not know if I ever would. Forgiveness was a luxury I could not yet afford. At 8 a.m., my phone buzzed, Sophie calling via FaceTime from her dorm in Laramie. "Morning, Grandma. You at the kitchen window again." I smiled. "You know me too well. Spring's coming. We'll plant those strawberries together right—" "Absolutely, sweetheart." "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, Sophie, more than you'll ever know." At 9, Vincent's truck pulled into the driveway. He stepped out, thermos in hand, and joined me on the porch. We drank our coffee in comfortable silence, watching the valley wake up. "You doing okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded. I survived. That's more than Lauren wanted. He squeezed my shoulder. "You did more than survive, Catherine. You fought back, and you won." At 10, I walked up the ridge behind the house, the highest point on the property. From here, I could see the entire valley, The barns, the pastures, the creek, winding through the cottonwoods, the Tetons standing guard in the distance. This land was mine. This legacy was mine. And no one, not Lauren, not Derek, not anyone would ever take it from me again. I am Catherine Morgan, 59 years old, farmer, widow, grandmother, survivor. I wear a red leather jacket in honor of a woman I barely knew but will never forget. I carry the weight of 11 families who lost everything. And I am not done yet. Behind me, the sun climbed higher. Ahead, the valley stretched wide and endless. I turned toward home and toward whatever came next. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized how blind I was. I trusted too easily. I ignored the warning signs. I didn't ask enough questions when legal papers appeared. I didn't verify signatures. I didn't protect myself, and I almost paid with my life. Don't be like me. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, or worse, if you recognize your own mother, grandmother, or neighbor, please act now. Check those documents. Ask for a second opinion. Talk to a lawyer you trust. These family drama stories don't just happen on screen. They happen in living rooms, kitchens, and courthouses every single day. Family drama stories like mine are playing out across America right now, and elder fraud is rising every year. I've spent my life as a rancher, a widow, a grandmother. I thought family meant loyalty. I thought blood was thicker than greed. These grandma stories teach us otherwise. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you most. Grandma stories about stolen property, forged signatures, and broken trust are more common than you think. That's why I'm sharing my grandma stories, so you can protect yourself and those you love. But here's what I learned. You are stronger than you think. God gave me the strength to survive when I thought I had nothing left. He put Sophie, Vincent, Sharon, and Amanda in my path when I needed them most. Faith, community, and courage carried me through. These family drama stories aren't just about me. They're about the 11 families who lost everything, the thousands of seniors targeted every year, and the Amanda Fosters who risk their lives to protect others. My advice: document everything. Trust your instincts. Speak up. Don't sign anything under pressure. And if someone isolates you from help, run. Final note: this story contains dramatized elements for educational purposes. Some details are fictionalized, but the lessons and message are entirely real and useful. If this style doesn't suit you, that's okay. Please seek content that better fits your needs.